Thanks, Denise. I'm just thinking what to talk to you guys about. I've been busy talking all over the country. But just looking at the room and just seeing all who's announcing what they're doing, where they're from, that's exactly the way the country has to move. This country, we've got foreigners. Welcome to South Africa. We've got foreigners in the country. We've got people from municipality. We've got the ex-mayor, Mr. Dundas. We've got the guy that has to deal with the weather and all the different clusters. The reality is that South Africa cannot be fixed by one entity alone. And we need, number one, to break the egos. Because egos is what stands between us and the prosperity of this country. Government cannot do it alone simply because the bureaucracy, the red tape is a problem. Secondly, they don't have the skills and experience. Sorry, I'm a very blunt guy. They don't have the skills and experience. And thirdly, to be fair to them, 7.4 million people, 7.4 million taxpayers can't look after 65 million people. So if we give the Germans our country and offer it to the Canadians and the Australians and the Americans, they'll tell us they don't want it. Because the discrepancy is just too huge to look after 65 million people, most of whom never had the opportunity to study, to train, to go and make progress. And now we're carrying the burden of that has happened in the past. People are unemployed, there's job losses, so that's a major factor. So the first one is working together. Secondly, people have this mindset, is this a failed state? People don't know what's a failed state. Failed state is a very relative term. Pre-94, you could say it's a failed state because of the politics. You could say at that time, because people did not get water or sanitation, it's a failed state. Post-94, cattle, sheep, cows, dogs, and pigs and people are still drinking water from the same trough in Butterworth and parts of Transkei. It was a failed state 30 years ago, nobody complained. The moment Eskom started having a problem and middle-class British people found it difficult, it became a failed state. We need to be very clear. A failed state is a state of the mind. The mind has failed us, not the country. And to that, we need to put another thing into perspective. The government is not corrupt. There are corrupt people within government, like you have corrupt people within corporates too. And you get corrupt people in the church and in the NGO sector, everywhere else. It's all a question about values, ethics, spirituality, and morality. Those are the things we need to fix. So we need to be very, very clear about, the failed state. Let's compare the load shedding time and the pronouncement of failed state was far bigger now than a few years ago. So let's compare. Let's compare something 50 years ago. Let's compare 3 years ago. 3 years ago, we had lockdown. No cars in the street. No planes flying. Nobody in the hotel. Nobody in the bed and breakfast. No car guard. No waiter getting a tip. No vendor on the street side selling fruit and vegetables. All shut down. People's livelihoods came to a total standstill. In Sandton, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, standing outside from Sandton Sun looking down, there's no cars in the street in Joburg at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. You can see the cockroach from the top. No car. That means that was a disaster state for us. And we survived. All these other things that we have is not insurmountable. There's nothing that can't be fixed. And this room proves why it can be fixed. Because municipality, civil service, municipality from the political point of view, municipality from a civil servant point of view, private sector, corporates, media, and ordinary people are standing together. When a country undergoes war, we all stand together in that broken country to fix it. I've got large operations in Syria. And in my hospital, it's the biggest hospital in the north of Syria right now. We see 20,000 patients a month. I've got 320 staff in that hospital, all paid for by us. We've got cardiac catheterization, dialysis, ultrasound, and a whole lot of things happening. And we see patients inside and outside from all over. We send medical teams all over. And one day, I told my team, guys, you guys are so experienced in war medicine that a gynecologist can do pediatrics, general surgery, orthopedics, plastic surgery, cardiology, because there were not enough doctors. And ordinary people had to do everything. And bombs fell around them. And I said, why don't you take your family and leave? And the question of ethics, commitment, belief in the country came forward. They were patriots. South Africa needs to get the policy of patriotism back into us. This country does not belong to the government. No country belongs to a government. It belongs to the people. 65 million people own this country. This is my country. And it's your country as the country of 65 million people. Politicians are put there by the people. What they tell you? I'm going there to serve you. They're serving themselves. Everybody is not like that. I don't want to generalize. There's a lot of good people wanting to do the right things. But the lack of experience, the lack of skills, and troublemakers within the system obstruct that from happening. We've got bureaucratic people and people who look at their own interests. When you say you're serving the people, when you go to government, we've seen two things happen. A large group from the time of 1994 have changed to serve themselves and not the people. But at the same time, there are a lot of people who want to serve. They're afraid, they don't know what to do, they're anxious, and they're threatened. Now we can change all that when we get together. I have a very simple policy that there's good guys in society, in corporates, religious sector, community sector, traditional leaders, all around. We hold hands together, we hold hands of government, and the bad guys, we kick them in the teeth. There's no other way of doing this, because it's about 65 million people. The lives of 65 million people at risk. When I was interviewed by Annika Larsen, and she told me, if you're in charge of the country, what would you do with people at ESCOM causing problems? I said, I'll shoot them on sight. I won't think twice to do that. Because you can't have a handful of people disrupting the lives of the masses in your country. That's not acceptable. You need to change that. So, I was saying that this, what has happened in Nelson Mandela Bay, I think you've got 19 clusters now, don't you?
We've got 7 clusters.
7, but in different categories, right? So the clusters and working together, fixing the traffic lights, protecting the substation, looking at the water, fixing the leaks, looking at sewage. Corporates never got involved in that kind of stage. Let's be honest. It's about what's the bottom line, how much profit you're going to make, or the shareholder wants to know how much money we're making, all that kind of stuff. But your company can't grow if your country doesn't grow. If there's no circulation of money and there's no buyers, you can have a big company and you'll collapse. And COVID proved that you need circulation of money and you have to hold the guy from the bottom and take him to the top. Some great things happen. For the first, I can't talk about Europe, but I can talk about South Africa. In 2020, when COVID took place, there was a change in thinking of corporate South Africa. Before 2020, they had a CSI division, which was for the sake of suiting the government rules. There wasn't a commitment to fixing the plight of people. You still want to make maximum profits and minimum CSI spend because you are profit driven. You're not interested in people. You say people first, you mean profits first. You never care about people. But for the first time, I saw the MDs and CEOs call us. It wasn't a CSI manager or some guy at the bottom and say, you know what, how many BE points will we get? Will we get a tax certificate? Will we get some write-up in the newspaper? Will they talk something good about us on the radio? We're such nice people, we help the country. No. The CEOs and CEOs and MDs said, we're not interested in all that. All we want to know is, can we save our people and can we save our country? When you have that kind of thinking and sentiment, I come from a religious and a spiritual background. We have a terminology in Islamic language terms teaching called barakah. Barakah is an Arabic word which means bounties and blessings beyond measure. 1 + 1 becomes 100, simply because you care for the next person. And when you do that, the teaching is that what you give 10-fold to 700-fold more comes back. And corporate South Africa has survived because of their kindness during COVID. And I asked them, why the change of heart? And they told me, for the first time in our lives, we understand the suffering of people. Business class, first class, 5-star hotels, expensive cars, sitting in office, meetings, conferences, expensive hotels, never understood the difficulty of people until it hit them and their families. But where it really hit, you realize money couldn't buy everything. A guy could go to the most expensive hospital in the country and say, I got 2 billion rand in my account. I know the president. I know the health minister. I know the deputy health minister. I know the premier. I know the MC of health. I know the group CEO of the hospital group. I know your CEO. I need a bed with oxygen. Can you please give me one? Do you think he's going to take the patient out from the bed who's got 50,000 rand and not 2 billion rand and say, okay, we're going to throw this guy out, you can have the bed? He's not going to do that. What your 2 billion there and you're going to die in the front door of the hospital. Your money means nothing. COVID came to open the spirituality of men, to make men understand the hardship and the difficulty of people in their own country and across the world. The ethics of our health system wouldn't allow you to throw that patient out. South Africans flew to Mauritius. They flew to Botswana. They flew to Dubai to get oxygen. It was a leveling field. COVID opened the eyes of everyone. In 2021, the thing that the country fears most, civil unrest, it's not going to happen. You need to make a distinction between 3 categories. Gangsters, drug dealers, bad guys is on one. Third force is the second one. And third group is the masses. You said, oh, 2021, you know, they burned the trucks in Moy River. For how many years have they've been burning the trucks in Moy River? What's new? It's been happening all the time. It's not something new that happened in the country for the first time. Oh, there's a planned thing. Trucks burning Moy River all the time. You say service delivery unrest. Is this something new? We've had more than 5,000 incidents of civil delivery unrest in the country. Did the country fall apart? No. Then came 2021. Still is here, the media got it wrong. They said insurrection. What insurrection are you talking about? What's an insurrection? Did they attack the presidential palace? Did they attack the union buildings? Did they attack the defense force? Did they attack the police, the SAPS, the RTI, airport, harbor, energy, electricity, roads? Did they do that? No. They went to a mall and they stole. Who takes over a country by stealing from a mall? When it happened first, it'll be a first time in history that'll happen. They went to the mall, and who went to the mall? People keep saying riot. There was no riot. It was looting. A 2-year-old child is not a rioter. A 2-year-old child walks to the mall. A 70-year-old lady walks on a walking stick. A teenager takes a Gucci shirt or a bag. Yes, we can't condone what they did. It was wrong. There's no ethics in what they did. But they were pushed by a group who said, we're doing it for Zuma. And I can tell you, Zuma doesn't know anything about this. He always told me, I know him personally. There's a lot of good in the man also. And he said, they always use my name. People were not interested in Zuma. It was the people that I call the real dangerous guys, the guys that we got to watch out for, the traitors and the anti-patriots. Any political party, any politician who uses slogans to cause attacks, vengeance, friction, discord, racism, is not a servant of the country. Let's make that very, very clear. Because when you cause discord in the country, to cause friction, you can never be a patriot. True politicians, true people in the country, build the country. They don't destroy a country. Don't sleep and get bluffed by people's slogans that tear people apart. Because believe me, once you tear people apart, you can't fix it. I've been to war zones where people from the same city, same village, same community have torn each, same religion, have torn each other apart. That vengeance and that hatred will take more than 300 years to clear. You will destroy everything. There will be no winners. So those people have to be very careful about the utterances they make. But fortunately, we've got masses that are not stupid. They realized they were used as fodder during 2021. They didn't burn any malls. Don't make a mistake. They didn't burn any malls. They went through and they took the shoe and a tin of fish and a packet of chips and a jersey and something, and they walked through. And yes, the younger ones walked out with a fridge on their back or a TV in their hand and a microwave, and they had no electricity, so I couldn't understand the logic of that. Right? And they took it and they walked. I lived Brookside Mall, where the big checker shop was on TV every single day from that Monday. I live 1 kilometer from that mall. 1 kilometer. And the masses walked past me. Was I scared of them? No. All they did is they walked past, hello, with a fridge in the back, hello. Yes. And they said, we're not here to harm anybody. They said it clearly, we are not here to harm anybody. In an Indian area, people say blacks and Indians got a problem. Black people are living in informal settlement right next to an Indian area. In the morning when the Indians got up, there was meat outside the door, a fridge, a TV outside the door. And they wondered where these things came from. And the informal settlement said, you guys couldn't join us, so we brought it for you. Where's the friction? Where's the discord? Nothing. Something very strange happened. Again, to show the continuation of the spirit of corporate South Africa. The first guys to call are the guys whose warehouses, trucks, forklifts, goods got damaged, burnt or stolen. And they called first. And they said, how do we help our people? No anger, no vengeance, no hatred. Don't tell them go to hell, let them die of starvation. Nobody said that. They said, let's help our people. Now that kind of thinking that permeates corporate South Africa actually started from the masses. People keep demonizing the people. You know what, they're going to burn the country. If they wanted to burn the country, let me tell you, it had been burnt a long time ago. You see, 27 April 94 was the most important turning point in the history of South Africa. Not because a black government replaced a white government. You know in Germany, they all change all the time. And in Europe, the governments change all the time. Left wing, right wing, it changes all the time. In Britain, you got an Indian Prime Minister. And in Scotland, you got a Pakistani Prime Minister. So things change all the time. What's the big deal? What was significant was the behavior of the masses. You see, the world's media came with all their war rooms. War rooms! We're going to watch South Africa burn on the 27th of April 1994. They're going to burn the malls. They're going to take revenge. Years of oppression. This is the time they got their day. We were told, stockpile food in your house. Keep your passport ready. Keep your jewelry and currency and your investments ready. You're going to fly. You have to run from the country. Mandela always said, the people have spoken. 27 April 94, the people spoke without saying the words. Their body language was the biggest form of speech. What was that speech? They stood in long queues, patient, disciplined, obedient, and in respect to put their vote. They didn't say, burn the shops, burn the oppressors, burn everybody. They didn't do that. In their language, they said, in their body language, yes, we had detention without trial. Our family members disappeared. The Craddock 4, June 16, Sharpeville, Dompas, can't move, oppression, injustice. They didn't say, we're going to take revenge. In their language, they said, we will build the country together. Mandela understood the power of true leadership. He could have won the battle and said, let's burn everything and take everything over. But he would have lost the war. What has happened in so many other countries where communities tore themselves apart. You can't fix that, as I told you. In 95, at great political risk to himself, he wore Francois Pienaar's jersey. Who would do that? The people regarded rugby as the sport of the oppressor. Yet Mandela wore it the following year. And they went one step further. They put the stem in the new anthem. Why would you do that? To show cohesion, accommodation, working together. We have failed those people, the masses, pre-94, and we failed them post-94. Because they're still drinking water with the sheep, the dog, the cat, and the pig in parts of Transkei and Butterworth. They tell you, hunger is going to destroy the country. This province would have burned 15 times over already because of hunger. We had the World Summit on Sustainable Development in South Africa in Nasrec and in Sandton in 2002. The same week of that summit, on the front page of the Sunday Times, 167 children died of starvation in the Eastern Cape. As I'm talking to you now, and Estelle has written about it and she knows about it, kids are dying of starvation every day in Butterworth and parts of Transkei. And the kids come too late to the hospital. And when we ask the parents, why you come so late? They look at you and say, starvation is a part of our life. We're hungry all the time. So what's new? We're hungry, the children are hungry. The difference is, the parents don't die, the children die. It's happening for a long time. But people are patient. They have faith. In this country, there's faith, there's spirituality, there's patience, and there's hope. Like it was in 94 when there was no anger. It still is there now. What the hope that somebody is going to deliver. The Zondo Commission, people say it's a waste. It's not a waste. It's showing us what went wrong in the last 15 years. Take lessons from it. What has happened now is you are sitting here because of all this. Why are you sitting here in this room? Because you're faced with all the challenges to fix the country. Now's the time. We tried everything before. The final thing is where all of us work together to bring service delivery to those people who need it most. You see, what would you do if you were that people? If that was your child, if that was your family, would you sit back at ease? Or you'll go out of your way and a direct message to politicians, get out of the offices. Stop sitting in your rooms. Go out and see what the people are going through. It's very easy to sit in the room and say, everything is fine. It's not fine. People can't live like this. It's not normal. We need to open our eyes and be true servants. A government is a servant. He serves the people. He doesn't dictate to the people. And we need to change that. And the only people that can change that is us. People say, I'm not going to vote. Waste of time. It doesn't work. So when the country falls apart, look in the mirror and say, you're responsible. Don't blame somebody else. Their own foolishness if you don't do that. We have lots of good people that are perfect candidates to run the country. They are community leaders, community police forum people, everywhere, people doing the right things with commitment. They serve for 40 and 50 years, not asking for anything in return. They're the ideal candidates. Choose your candidate properly and put them in, because they will serve you. There's a lot of good people in government. And there's a lot of good people in the civil service who want to do the right things. But what we say, government is corrupt. Civil setup is corrupt. Police is corrupt. What do? You break the morale of those people who really want to serve, who want to do good. I met a spiritual teacher in Turkey who gave me the instruction to form gift of the givers. And he told me, my son, we don't ever look for the negative in people. We always look for the positive. No matter how bad the guy is, you look at the soul and look for something good. When you find the good, you emphasize, you did this good, you did this good, you did this good. And the law of spirituality is that the good will come to the top and the bad will go to the bottom. It says there is no perfect human being. People have bad habits. It doesn't make them bad people. There's a lot of, show me any saint anywhere in the world. You don't have them. We all have mistakes. We all have flaws. We all have shortcomings. But inside us, there's a lot of good. South Africa's got a lot of good. In government, in corporates, public sector, everywhere. Media, traditional leaders everywhere. We have tons of good people who care for this nation. We've survived pre-94. We've survived after that. We stood together in the Soccer World Cup. We stood together in the Rugby World Cup. Today our team won, the lady team won. We're happy about that. South Africa celebrate everything. And you say a failed state, then you'll see sadness. You'll see depression. We went to the island of Palampon in 2013 in the Philippines when Typhoon Haiyan hit. The moment we entered the island, the mayor, the councillors, and the community leaders came to receive our teams. We were the first team in the world that got to Palampon, our search and rescue and medical teams. And when we got there, the town was silent. Nobody was talking. No movement. Everybody was down like this, depressed. And we asked the mayor, what happened? He said, first of all, we got hit by the typhoon. Secondly, the hospital has been damaged. There is only one hospital in the island. If the hospital, we have to shut the hospital down. If you shut the hospital down, it's the end of life. No baby delivery, no cardiac care, no operations, no saving people. He said the entire nation is depressed. I said, we will fix this hospital. The roof was gone. In 3 days, 72 hours, the South African team replaced 1,000 square meters of roof. We fixed the windows, the floors, the tiles, the bathrooms, and we put everything to work. We even found broken machines and we started fixing it. Whilst we were doing that, we suddenly heard the sound of hammer and nails in the entire island. We went and we inspired an entire nation on the island to help themselves. That's your job now. That's your job together as South Africans to bring hope to an entire country that this country can be helped. It's not insurmountable. This country is not a failed state. We're not going to fall apart because we've got just too many good people and we've got a resilient nation that wants to fix the country. I mean, post-COVID, why are there so many engagements? Why are corporates sitting, planning what we're going to do? Why are people visiting here? Do you think you came to a failed state? Or you came because of economic opportunity? Why are people sitting together? Because they know we want to fix the country. Does it look like people want to run away from the country? No. Everybody's having these meetings, how to improve the efficiency of the country, of the companies, how to remove fractional costs, how to move away things that take away the profits. And the government is largely responsible for that, which we have to fight in the system to correct. A ship can't take 10 days to offload in Durban at a cost of $100,000 a day. That's quite ridiculous. In Singapore, they do it in 4 hours. In 9 seconds, the customs is cleared. Why can't we do that? If somebody else can do it, why can't we do that? And it's a message to all of us to do this together. You see, I spoke to the Emirates General Manager. He told me pre-COVID, there were 49 flights a week to South Africa. They're on 42 flights a week to South Africa already. Does that look like mad people coming to a failed state? Check the CTICC in Cape Town. International conventions taking place in South Africa are fully booked till 2016. In every place that you look, I spoke to the German embassy. I spoke to Daimler Trucks. They put up a big plant in Joburg. They invited me for the opening. I spoke to the Swedish ambassador and Swedish companies. They said, we'll increase our investment in South Africa. The Australians told me the same thing. The Canadians told me the same thing. Today you had Egyptian visitors here in the country to see how they can expand. We got requests from Iranian delegation how to invest in South Africa. The media keeps telling you how many South Africans have left. Did they tell you how many want to come back? There's huge numbers of South Africans wanting to come back into our country because they realize that this country has huge potential. Our biggest fear was civil unrest. It's not going to happen. We have a biggest fear of a government going to wreck everything up. It's not going to happen because the changes are already taking place inside government. I know. I have access to government all the time. In the day, we fight all the time. You know, I'm very blunt and direct with them. And in the evening, we're sitting together. I have engagements all the time. What are different political parties? What business? What labor and everyone else? We all can fix this country together. Remove ego and be positive. Positivity, because you can have a healthy mind. You can fix anything. You can have a healthy body and a negative mind, you will destroy everything. And one of the reasons that has compounded the difficulty in this country and worldwide is that we've had a lot of challenges. In 2000, and especially in my province, in KZN, in 2019, when Cyclone Idai hit Mozambique, Malawi, and Zimbabwe, it caused massive floods damage in Durban. In 2020, we went through COVID, and the whole country went through COVID. In 2021, we had the civil unrest. In 2022, we had the floods again in KZN. The destruction was massive. We're not falling down and falling apart. We're still standing and we're growing. And in 2022, again, 11th April, the flood water rose 8 meters in 45 minutes. And I'm expecting people to say, send a helicopter, send a boat, send a diver, send earth-moving equipment, the boundary wall fell down, we're in trouble, come help. Nobody asked. The only calls we got was from corporate South Africa. And they said, how much do you need and what do you need? Now, when you have that kind of initiative, you saw corporate South Africa gave the NPA 30 million. We need to get involved with the police, with crime prevention. The security services, the security companies are doing a magnificent job working hand in hand in police. In KZN, they've done an incredible job working hand in hand. And the last point, and we can have questions after that, our unit principles. Be positive, work together, there's good in everybody, country can be fixed. Foreigners are wanting to invest in here. South Africans are coming back. They're coming back with skills and money. And everybody's asking, I'm retired, like all of you here. And what can I do? Teachers can come back, tell government, open the schools. We have kids. My wife is a counseling psychologist. She's involved in a school in Pietermaritzburg. There's 45 kids in the class. We lost 2,000 teachers during COVID. A lot of teachers got high blood pressure and diabetes and heart disease. They can't teach anymore, but it's still there in the school. But in her school that she went to have, there's 173 kids with learning disorders. What chance does the child have in the future? What chance does this teacher have to teach so many kids with learning disorders? We need the teachers to come back to help. We need to train teachers with special skills in learning disorders. I put in special teachers there to teach. I was in Vereniging, an Afrikaner group, got a school in the Vaal Triangle. They invited me to be the guest speaker on Thursday night. They take care of a school with 480 physically and mentally challenged children. 480! You know how difficult it is to look after one child? 480. Those people have committed themselves. That's a blessing. That's what I mean by barakah. They help those children. They bring hope to those kids. We have people like that. And the final point, about the SAPS. In my city called Pietermaritzburg, on the N3 going to Durban, the SAPS van was driving. And they found a dog walking across the road, and that road is extremely busy. They stopped the car, they picked the dog up, made sure they took it right to the side, and the dog was safe, and even the road users are protected against an accident. 2022 floods, place called Henley Dam in Maritzburg. A child and an old man drowned because of the floods. A police lady diver dives into the dam, not to take out a live person, to take out 2 deceased people. In all our cultures, we want closure. We need the body of the child and we need the body of the adult man. Police diver dived in and she drowned. She's got 2 small kids. What the way our narratives and the way we explain things is the police wife, lady going home, and you're going to tell the kids, you see your mother? She belongs to that corrupt organization called the SAPS. They're rogues, they steal, they're dishonest, they're corrupt. Is that the message you're going to give the child? Or are you going to say that your mother died in the line of duty? To take out the body of somebody else so some family could get closure. In April 2020, and this is the last point, during lockdown level 5, in a place called Nonzamo in Strand, in Cape Town, the queues were long. But physical distancing, everything takes longer. You can't stand next to each other because of COVID. But people were hungry. There was no food. We were rolling out food parcels. 8 o'clock, the SAPS came, lockdown level 5, curfew, stop. You can't do this. People were still waiting in large numbers. They were hungry. Ali called me from Cape Town, my team member. Said, tell SAPS on the line, tell him do what you want. I'm not stopping this. I'm going to break the law. You can lock my teams up. You can jump into the lake. You can do what you want. I'm not going to stop this. Do what you want. He sat for a few seconds and he said, you're right. I'm also going to break the law. And he called reinforcements, not to stop us, but to help us. He said, these old people can't walk home so late at night alone. And they can't carry this big food parcel alone. And they will take the food parcel and put them in a van and take them to the house. The last lady took the food parcel at 12:30 in the morning. And she said, I'm going home now, and I'm going to wake my grandchildren up. And we said, why are you doing that? She said, when I left, my grandchildren looked at me with hope in their eyes that they'll bring something because they haven't eaten for days. If the SAPS stopped that lady, what would have happened to the lady and those children? We don't understand that staying in our expensive houses and our expensive offices. Those children's future, their hope would have been totally destroyed just because of one food parcel. To the credit of the SAPS. There's great people in the SAPS. General Nkata, your new commander here, is a brilliant policeman. Fights crime in a great way. And there's so many like him in the country. And the food parcel went home. And the last story, in Makanda down the road, here, Grahamstown, July 2020, a child comes to the line, to the soup queue, shaking, cold, thin, torn shirt, no shoes, winter, freezing, no jersey, no jacket, no hat. The child becomes an adult, a sacrificial lamb, and says, I'm very hungry, but I won't eat much. Can you rather give me the food for my mother, my father, my brother, and my sister? They haven't eaten for days. That's the reality of South Africa. Government better open your eyes. Politicians open your eyes. Corporates increase your CSI, because that child could have been your child. Thank you very much.
Ask questions, and I also, when you were telling your stories, the other story you told the other night about the dogs in the earthquake, do you want to just relay that story quickly? And
that's a part of spirituality. That's not to do with the country, but I'll explain that. To understand that in context, when I was given instruction by a spiritual Sufi teacher in Istanbul, he gave me an instruction on the 6th of August 1992 in fluent Turkish. He said it to me in Turkish. I don't speak a word of Turkish, but I understood every word in Turkish that night when he gave me the instruction. It was a Sufi master that I met in Istanbul, and on the 6th of August, 92, at 10 p.m., he looks me in the eye, and in fluent Turkish, he tells me, my son, I'm not asking you, I'm instructing you to form an organization. The name in Arabic will be Waqful Waqifin, translated, gift of the givers. You will serve all people, of all races, all religions, all colors, all classes, all cultures, of any geographical location and of any political affiliation. But you will serve them unconditionally. You will expect nothing in return, not even a thank you. In fact, in what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life, expect to get a kick up your back. If you don't get a kick up your back, regard it as a bonus. Serve people with love, kindness, compassion, and mercy, and remember the dignity of man is foremost. If someone is down, don't push them down. Hold them, lift them. Wipe the tear of a grieving child. Caress the head of an orphan. Say words of good counsel to a widow. These things are free. They don't cost anything. Clothe the naked, feed the hungry, provide water to the thirsty. And in everything that you do, be the best at what you do. Not because of ego, but because you're dealing with human life, human emotion, human suffering, and human dignity. This is an instruction for you for the rest of your life. I was 30 years old. And then he said, my son, whatever you do is done through you and not by you. I'm in this business for 31 years on Sunday. And everything people think I do is not humanly possible. There's hand put over me in every way. I told you he spoke in Turkish, and I don't understand Turkish. But I understood every word that night. And I asked him, how is it when you speak Turkish, I understand? And other people speak Turkish, I don't understand. He said, my son, when the hearts connect and the souls connect, the words become understandable. I told him, what am I supposed to do? What do you want me to do? I'm a doctor in private practice. I have 3 surgeries. What am I supposed to do? He told me one line. You will know. For 31 years, I do know. We pulled out a South African hostage from Al-Qaeda in 4 days in Yemen. No training for any intelligence services, FBI, MI6, state security. Nobody trained us. 4 days we pulled her out alive, unconditionally, no ransom. She's in South Africa. We just knew what to do. Another part of spirituality. This is the last example. November last year, a friend of mine from Cape Town calls me. And he says, would you like to meet the new general manager of Turkish Airlines? He's coming from San Francisco to Cape Town. I told him, yes, I always need an airline partner because disasters, I need to have the right kind of people. But there's a time and a place, I told him. 1st February 2023, I'm on the plane from Durban to Cape Town. And as the plane's about to take off, I call him and said, is this guy from Turkish Airlines here? He calls back, he said, yes, he's here. We can have supper tonight at a Turkish restaurant. At 9:30, I meet him. My first words to Sinan, I said, Sinan, I need an airline partner. In the event I need to move search and rescue teams, medical teams, search and rescue equipment, medical equipment, and canines, dogs, to a country that gets hit by an earthquake. 4 days later, the earthquake hit his country. What was the chance of that happening? I could have met him in November the year before, but I met him in February, 4 days before the earthquake took place. In 2 hours, our teams were ready to go. All the arrangements were made. And that Saturday, the 4th of February, I didn't fly back home to Pietermaritzburg. I flew to Johannesburg because my wife said, you're missing all the family weddings. You can't miss the family wedding today. So I flew to Johannesburg. And on Sunday, somebody messed up my tickets. I didn't fly back home. There were no flights to go back home. And we said to ourselves, there's a very good reason why there's no flight to go home on this Sunday. Something's going to happen. Monday morning, 4:17 a.m., I knew why I did not get a flight to Pietermaritzburg. Because the earthquake hit Turkey. The city it hit, Hatay. I was in Hatay in November last year. And at that point, when it happened, I told my wife the Turkish ambassador is going to call me just now. And within an hour, the Turkish ambassador called me. I just know when it's going to happen and what's going to happen. When our teams were on site, on day 8, the South African dog, Donna, said, there's a live person in this building. And the SAPS team pulled out alive a 90-year-old grandmother in that building because of that dog trained by the South African people. In that, there were 12 teams from 12 different countries. 11 of them were all government teams. We were the only non-government team allowed to work in the area. We were the only team that had 5 dogs. And whilst we were working there, the Italians were there, the Chinese were there, the Turkish teams were there, Bosnia, Croatia, Slovenia, and Serbia, Oman, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia. Whilst we were there, the Bosnian team leader came and he started sobbing. And we asked, what happened to you? He takes out his wallet, he pulls out a picture. In the picture there's a baby and a mother. And he says, that baby is me. That lady is my mother. I know your guy's name. I need to give you a little story before that. In 93, immediately after I got the instruction, I went into Bosnia in August 92. I went again in November 92. And in 93, we designed the world's first containerized mobile hospital. Nobody in the world had done that before. A world first, designed in South Africa, in Africa, 28 state-of-the-art containers. Theater, surgical unit, ICU, sterilization, dental unit, physiotherapy, delivery unit, casualty, orthopedic unit, and we took it across into Europe, into Bosnia. CNN filmed the container hospital on the 1st of February 1994. And they said the South African containerized mobile hospital is equal to any of the best hospitals in Europe. The guy said, I know your name because I was born in the hospital that you guys brought to Bosnia in 1994. What's the chances of that happening in all disasters? The Bosnian man that was born was there on site for our teams. That's the power of spirituality.
Thank you for sharing that. And are there any questions or any comments anyone wants to make? I know you say you're a disaster tourist. Nobody have any questions? No,
Hi, Dr. Sooliman. So, a lot of business people, wonder, and I used to do this for years, that, everyone has their role to play. We provide jobs, we pay taxes, and hopefully that comes back to us in services. And if you start to play in the space where government is, you might breed complacency. And I'm encouraged by the words that, it's within all of us to do something to be the change. But what do you say about that mindset that says the more civil society does, the more complacent other players are, and the less change happens?
In fact, very good question. The opposite is happening. The public is now asking the government that you have the money, you have the taxes, what are you doing? And the media play a very important role in bringing about that questioning. That's one of the reasons, if you follow the media, that people are saying the people rather pay me the tax. Give the tax to me and not to the government. Why are they saying that? They're saying you have the money, and why are you not using it judiciously and accountably? And the public themselves, and the more we're doing, the more the government is getting hammered to say, you should be doing this. Why are you not doing this? In the past, I'm going to be blunt. You see, you couldn't speak against the black government. The black blessings protected the black government because it's a sensitive issue. Black government has taken over rights to health, everything in the past, so we can't say anything. The black blessings are not doing that anymore. All the academics, all the people of civil society, the trade unions, everyone are saying, you are not delivering, you have failed us. And the race card cannot be used anymore. And people are saying, we don't care who the government is, as long as we get service delivery and we assist it. So the people themselves, I was at the Black Business Chamber on the 30th of April. They gave me an award. I was the only Indian who got an award among the black people. So no BE points for that. And Paul Mashatili was there. And the black businessman told him straight, when are we fixing the system? The tender system, the corruption, the failure in service delivery, we need to fix it. He was approached by black people, not people from any other color. If anybody else did it, they'll say you're racist. That's what they were said. And he said, you're right. We need to fix the system. There's too much bureaucracy, too much of red tape. We're too slow. We're caught up in our systems. There's no implementation. There's no service delivery. We need to fix all of that. Joe Pashla was with me. We were in medical school together. But that time we didn't know each other so well. He, Zweli Mkhize, Arnold Solderi, all were together, a few years ahead of me. And we put in 60 million rand to upgrade Charlotte Makeke Hospital, to fix the stores, because there is no money. And we know about Treasury, and we know from DBSA, there really was no money. But we couldn't leave a hospital, that's one of the key hospitals in Gauteng and for Africa, to stay without stores. Where do you keep the equipment and all the stuff? So we put 60 million rand of our own reserves into that hospital. Joe Pashla, standing in front of the media, said, "You will all know government can't be trusted." Those were his words to the media, live. And he says, we're not going to explain that, we all know the problem. And he says, "You all know that we can trust this man." And he points to me. And he says, "We ask corporate South Africa to give him the money, and government will stand behind him, and we will work together." The most important part is to acknowledge there is a problem. And they've acknowledged there is a problem. Their biggest problem is themselves. They need to fix the factions within themselves. And they need to open their heart to allow corporates to come in and work together. But the president has said it many times. There's many people who said it now, let's work together. But from a practical point of view, remove the red tape that's causing the problem for getting economic investment, growth, and development. We need to change that, and that's the part they're going to fix. It will come, but they need to move it up a little faster.
Thanks for that. What do you think of the pledge that the 114 corporates in South Africa have signed?
In principle, it's a very good point. In practicality, what's the reality? What's going to happen? But corporate South Africa has already been giving money to fix a lot of things in government, And it would be better if they, instead of giving the money to government directly, they'll say, okay, we're going to fix the police station, we're going to make it more secure. We're going to give the police 2 extra cars to catch the guys faster. We're going to give the NPA another 20 million rand to make sure that all the guys, the crooked guys, we catch them, we're going to have conviction better. We're going to help the Hawks to have the Hawks have been doing a brilliant job for the last few weeks. They've been catching a lot of people, And the SAPS they have to be equally armed like the gangsters. I was with the police minister. And they invite me to talk to all the police functions. And I tell the police straight, you're afraid to die, find another job. Go do parks and recreation or something like that. Because the criminals are not afraid to shoot you. And the minister has told them many times, don't get caught with your gun in your holster. Take it out. And don't be afraid and take it on. They were cleaning up the system. General Kankata is cleaning up the system. And in November last year, I was the guest at the SAPS Police Awards. And the lady comes to the front, there's 8 or 9 categories, and this lady gets an award for what? She was responsible for catching out police corruption. And she was responsible for getting those corrupt police locked up. And for that, she got the biggest applause from fellow SAPS members in that awards. Now, there are people like this who want to fix the system. So yes, in principle, if corporate South Africa is coming to realize their prosperity depends on a functional country. And the government doesn't have the skills. They got the skills, they got the experience, but your CSI level is not enough to fix the country. Return dignity to the people, you see. Race differences is not going to destroy a country. ESCOM is not going to destroy the country. Class difference is not going to destroy the country. What's going to destroy the country? When people lose dignity. When you lose dignity, there are no consequences because you've got nothing to lose. You've lost everything already. So what is there to lose? And when you reach that stage, the amount of negative energy that runs through you will be horrendous. You will cause confrontation, chaos, disorder, and conflict. When the child keeps falling down a toilet, toilet, and you tell the parent your 2-year-old child died in feces, at what point they're going to turn around and say, this can't be happening all the time. This has to stop. We can stop that. We can change that. If that was your own child and your grandchild, what would you want to do? Kill somebody. They don't do that. Don't overstretch the patience and the limit of poor people. Stop saying, prophets, prophets, prophets. We have a teaching. What you don't spend is not yours. You're going to die. What else is going to happen to the money? If I give you 2 billion rand each, how long are you going to live to spend that money? You're going to keep making and making and making, but you'll never be able to spend it. Because you can buy 5 houses, you can only sleep in 1 room. You can have 10 cars, you can only drive 1. The other 9, the battery is going to die. And then you have to call the mechanic to fix the thing. It's all a headache. It's all maintenance and grief. So we have a teaching, what you don't spend is not yours. Make as much money as you want. But don't forget the share of the poor man in what you make. The only way you can develop society is to hold those that have fallen down and pick them up with you. And both of you will climb 3 to 4 meters together. That's the reality of life. And if you do that, this country will come right. There will be no civil unrest. There will be no social chaos. No politicians will be able to use race and class and white monopoly capital and things like that against each other. People will build this country together because they will live together. On 20th March this year, when a political party said, we're going to shut the country down. There's going to be a national shutdown. We're going to march in the streets. If anybody keeps their shops open, it will be looted. Irresponsible statements. Since when does the country belong to you? Those who want to go to work will go to work. Those who want to go to hospital will go to hospital. Those who want to go to school will go to school. You will not stop us. What happened in the townships? The old people stood around the malls with weapons and said, nobody's going to burn any mall again in this country. What happened to the march? It was a total failure. Nothing happened. The people of the country showed that political party the middle finger because they learned from 2021 they were not going to be used as fodder again. In 27 April 94, they showed we're not a violent people. We are a cultured people. And they showed it again. 3 days after the civil unrest in KZN, they were extremely remorseful for what happened. It's not going to happen again. But we can't sit back and say, it's fine, profits, profits, profits. Make profits, nobody's stopping you. It's not only about shareholders, it's about your people first. Shareholders are foreigners, sorry, most of the time. But it's about your country. It's your people. We need to do that first. What would foreigners do about their own people in their own country? Wouldn't they take care of them first? So why are we playing second fiddle? We need to be very careful about how we look after our people.
And maybe if I can just ask a question, if there's no other questions, I just want to ask, in terms of Nelson Mandela Bay, you spent quite a bit of time here, and you've engaged with a lot of business people. What's your view on what's happening here and the person?
What I've seen, which is very unusual for business, everybody wants to go beyond this competition. He wants to outride this competition. He wants to climb over this competition. For the first time, not only in Nelson Mandela Bay, but in the country itself, I see companies who will make the same kind of product in the same space are willing to work together. And they realize their success and their prosperity requires on being willing to do things together. It's no more about I'm the number one and I'm the best and I got the most profits and I got to hide from my competitor and I got to beat my competitor and I got to do every kind of evil stuff. No. It's about what's the big deal? Let's share information, work together, do things together. When you do things for the common good, the guy that benefits us most is the guy that initiates the common good. The company themselves benefit. We used to in the past, it didn't work. Try the new system. COVID has come as a blessing, to be honest. It has brought people together. It has brought companies together. It has made people more conscious of life and the difficulty of others. It has opened the eyes of a lot of people. And the biggest challenge in COVID and why people are so scared from 2019, 20, 21, 22, 23, 23 is of course the load shedding. That's been the big monster. People didn't recover from a mental point of view in COVID. Mental health issues have not been dealt with. So any small disaster, burn one truck in whatever, it's a national crisis because the mind has not been dealt with. You see, my medical teams and all medical guys are very macho. They don't need counseling. They can deal with anything. They can see war, they can see burn people, blown up people. No, it doesn't affect them. But in COVID, something different happened. On all the medical checks in South Africa, the medical guys needed help. They saw their friends die in the hospital. They saw their family members die. And the worst problem was people died lonely. They died in isolation because you couldn't go to the ICU. You couldn't be with your family. The child saw his mother die, but through a window. You couldn't go inside and touch the hand and feel the heat and say the last words of warmth. It broke the people mentally. So on the medical chat, the doctors would say, does anybody know who does yoga? Is there somebody who does breathing exercise? Is somebody offer mindfulness? Is there a retreat where we can go somewhere? And finally, they would say, can you recommend a psychologist or a psychiatrist? But what's the good thing about that? If you don't ask, you won't get help. In the same way, government needs to ask. And we need to give the help where we got the skills.